Welcome back to Exhaling South Africa's World Lead History. We are hosts Komoto and PN Vilagazi, and we are here for another installment of All Things History. And today we have another interesting topic that we want to share with you guys. And the topic of today's episode is South Africa's exceptional neck to notch, the first in the world. So I want to get into it with the PN Vilagazi, just to ask him what does it mean for South Africa's exceptional knock to notch, the first, what does it mean, pretty much, to anyone who might be asking themselves.
Hello out there in the world. I'm also happy to be back. And remember, my moniker is Muhammad Ali, and because sometimes I come through as he did when he gets into the ring. South Africa really is a very magnificently phenomenal place in history, and also bordering on the esoteric, as Gogo, Ndlazi, and Mngoma out here in South Africa said recently on radio, that South Africa is a spiritual gateway to the world. And I've never been looking at it with the spiritual glasses on, but I have also been very keen on how it keeps on notching the first in history, and then meaning that it is something exciting. It is something that has to be romanticized. It's something that seems to be prefigured by the power from on high. It's something that seems to be pre-planned beyond our understanding, because this is the only way that we have now is phenomenal. And we have to do this so that we can help boost even the self-esteem of our young people in this country, to make them realize how much world leaders they are, and those who have come before them, and how much they have led in history and world history for that matter. South Africa is a place that when it's handicapped and when it is impaired and even imperiled, it rises phenomenally. It rises. I will give you a few examples, if not more. Take Baby Jake Matala, a prize fighter from out of Soweto in South Africa, who was the shortest prize fighter, the shortest boxer in the world. His height was 1.47 meters, or 4 feet 10, who notched 4 world titles under his belt, fighting as a lightweight and also as a strawweight division. And so Matala just bedazzled the world in the world of boxing, that he was the shortest. And even when Nelson Mandela got out of jail, was asked, "Who's your favorite boxer in the world?" He couldn't hesitate but to say Baby Jake Matala. And recently, we have been pleasantly surprised to realize that young person called Nkosinati Mapumulo, Black Coffee as his moniker, is one person who's paralyzed on one hand, completely paralyzed on one arm, but he still tinkles the music organs and related instruments in such a miraculous way that he ended up winning the Dance Electronic Album Grammy Award, the first ever to be won by an African person. Indeed, when we are weak, we are strong. And so this is the surprise that South Africa offers the world from time to time. Then I will tell you about one young lady, Gabisile, simply the best Shabalala, who came out of Everton, where we are sitting right now, and had come out of a shack that she shared with her granny and 4 siblings, to become the very first, always mark first. All these are first female boxer in the whole world to win a boxing title in 2016. And before her ancestor Miriam Makeba, who was also known as Mama Africa, became the first person in 1960 to take African vocal music onto the international stage. First all the time. Alf Kumalo, a matriculant of Wilberforce Institute in Everton, became the first world-renowned photojournalist to cover all of Muhammad Ali the fighter's fights, and got Ali to crown him his #1 fan in the whole world. This is what South Africa is all about. This is what South Africa is made of, and it doesn't cease to boggle my mind, whilst it keeps me really happy with dizziness. And then you come to a person like Hamilton Naki, who was Professor Christian Barnard, the first professor to perform a heart transplant operation at Grooteskier Hospital in Cape Town, South Africa in 1967. Naki was a guardian hand of Chris Barnard. No education, no education at all, perhaps only high primary school or lower primary school education, as we called it in South Africa here in the apartheid days. And this man was Chris Barnard's hand, guardian hand.
Like he used to work with him hand in hand.
No, he was working. Is what in apartheid we call it the garden boy.
Okay.
He used to do the garden.
And then he formed a relationship with Chris Barnard and managed to work his way into his surgery.
Not exactly that way. Chris Barnard was the boss, what we call boss in South Africa.
Yeah.
So Barnard might have noticed something about him and said, young man, you can come and moonlight with me, makes a few more pennies, put them in your pocket, and work with me in theater as I work. I will show you scalpels and so on, and and he began to master them. So when Barnard asked for that kind of scalpel and so on, he was ready to offer it. When Barnard another, he was just ready to offer it. So he became not only a guardian hand, but an operation hand of wonderful excellence, of humongous excellence. And this man was not noted as somebody exceptional during Barnard's time, because he was simply black. He was one of the black people in South Africa, so nobody took note of him. Whereas he only later received an honorary master's medical science degree in 2005, after Chris Barnard has died. Now,
so
yes.
Do you think that did he play a huge role, like in the surgery that Chris Barnard did, like in the 1950s?
There was no any other hand but Hamilton Naki's hand. There was no white hand, Chris Barnard had a brother who helped him later, but Naki was the foremost person who was helping him. And so he became the protomata of what would become a movie if somebody made a movie, and this man would be even eclipsed Chris Barnard in that movie as the main character, the main star of the movie. because he's the real miracle man, more than the person who has been in university and studied medicine and so on. And those.
So what do you think made him to stand out, like, except from his lack of obviously like formal education? Like, what do you think made Chris realize that okay, this guy has something special about him?
I think he was too smart. They don't talk much about his art in doing the gardens, in shaping the gardens. They don't talk much about it. But there might have been something about some precision in how he cut the things and planted the things and pruned the things that Chris Barnard said to himself, here we have a genius, and this genius can help me even in the operation theater. So there must have been something that Chris Barnard, who's the protagonist, the real protagonist of the story, who's celebrated figure in the world, did not tell us about Hamilton Nike. But we had to uncover ourselves later on that Hamilton Nike was this phenomenal person. And that's why I'm emphasizing only a person out of South Africa could achieve such, could stand out like Hamilton Nike stood out. And that's why I'm saying there's something phenomenal about South Africa that we have to put on record, and the world must take note of it. It's not only about going, launching rockets to the moon, to the outer space, and so on. Right on the ground, South Africa has this knack to magnificently achieve a lot of things. For instance, Miriam Makeba. Miriam Makeba became the first woman who took the vocal music to the world stage, the African vocal music. There was no African vocal music known throughout the world until Miriam Makeba showed up in 1960. Still burdened with apartheid, having come out of apartheid. Yes.
So she did that, even though it was not generally accepted to have African people, but they were African Americans, right, who were doing the type of music that she does, which is jazz music, and obviously at that level, like. Do you think that she was the first in Africa, but not necessarily like in the world?
I honor the African American for keeping African music. Part of some of my very preferred music and love music is Negro spirituals, and which gave birth to jazz as well. So these people have always been phenomenal. But unfortunately, I'm not talking about Africans in general today. I'm talking about South Africans. And those people helped Miriam Makeba when he got into America. They began to help groom her and so on. But the fact of the matter is that she's the first to bring vocal music onto the world stage.
And at a time where apartheid was just in its worst. Its worst, pretty much, during the 1960s.
Yes, people like Harry Belafonte took her by the arm and made her what she had to be. And to point where she was called Mama Africa. And I reckon Belafonte also married her later, as much as Stockley Carmichael, who is called also Dore, Sigao Dore, when he came to Africa and resettled in Africa, also married Makeba. Well, Hugh Masekela also married Makeba, so she married quite a number of fellows. And this is not what I was about to say now, but what I'm saying that she stood out as an exceptional person to carry out the mission of liberating South Africa. Because even in 1963, she spoke to the Special Committee of the United Nations, and I was not getting into that area.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by the fact that she was able to bring the vocals, African vocals, into the world, and she died as a person called Mama Africa. Yes. Then there was this other person, Charlotte Maxeke.
Yes, Charlotte Maxeke, who was also a very phenomenal woman.
Yes, Charlotte, a Mopedi woman who went. Mopedi is, if we say ethnicity, who went to sing for Queen Victoria on a jubilee, and with a number of other people.
So Queen Victoria loved South African music, or were they singing music that she likes, or was
I really don't care whether she liked it or not. You know what I mean? Most Europeans cannot help but fall in love with African music.
Yes.
But they still disrespect Africans. So it's not a big deal for me that she loved, because they were there, paraded and so on. And she didn't do much for them. They were actually taken to the USA by some Americans who saw that talent in them and enrolled them at the Wilberforce University in Ohio. Queen Victoria was just going to send them back home with a little English frocks and so on. You understand what I mean?
So they were honored when they got to England.
Honored by who?
By the Queen.
It was not an honor. They used to parade a lot of people. They used to take people from Namibia and parade them, show them in suits, just in suits, and what they look like. They took Sarah Batma, and paraded in France and many other places. So there was nothing honor about it. It was to entertain themselves, using some coons to entertain the Queen.
So they were put on a stage, pretty much, like.
Yes, and it means nothing. It's like you in South Africa, when apartheid put you on stage, you were not going to celebrate. You were, if you were real, caught up in the whole thing as somebody with slave mentality. You say the boss has taken note of me. Like a house slave, and so this is house slave issues. So you are taking me to there. I didn't want to go to there. I wanted to talk more to South Africans, notching a lot of things. Charlotte got herself a BSc degree, and she came back home. She was called the Mother of Liberation. She came to build Wilberforce Institute in South Africa, which was started by the Tansi family. She put her hands on together with her husband Marshall Maxeke.
Yes.
And they built Wilberforce from scratch, from nothing, and galloped with it without money, without anything, but just collecting from churches around, from the Trinity Church and other people from surroundings, sympathizers, to keep the school going. The school was not even registered when it was started in 1908, was only registered in 1949.
So they operated for years without
being registered.
But they still managed to enroll students. And
one of them was Alf Kumalo. Alf Kumalo was a photojournalist who came out of Everton, a matriculant of Wilberforce, who became such an exceptional photojournalist. He covered most of Muhammad Ali's fights, and Muhammad Ali ended up calling him my number one fan. And he was a celebrated, really celebrated world photojournalist. So he was the very first to be called by the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
the greatest of all time. That is my first
number one fan.
My number one fan. And then if I have to come back to politically, the notches that were done politically.
Yeah.
If you allow me, the only 4 citizens of the whole world to ever notch the Nobel Peace Prize came out of South Africa. It was Inkosi Albert Lutuli, Bishop, later became Archbishop Desmond Mbelo Tutu, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela,
Yes.
and Frederick Willem de Klerk.
Okay.
And although a lot of people were not happy and are still not happy with the de Klerk award, but he's South African, he's a Boerseer. He comes out of this soil, and like I will point out in one of my books, that most of these Afrikaners are not really pure European. They call themselves European because they thought they would feel much better about themselves.
Yeah.
But these are people not modern naturalized. These people come from our mothers. They come from the Koi and San womb.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why even you see the structure of their women reflect of that of all African women. So
yeah,
it is another point.
Though aren't they naturalized though?
Well, I will check my dictionary as to naturalize. What does it mean?
Okay.
But so far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
is that they're half European, half indigenous.
Yes, because of obviously like after so many years, like they've been here in Africa, they had to develop African genes, like one way or another, because of now they are naturally inhabited here in Africa.
You're talking like getting genes is like buying it in the supermarket.
Well, simply because of
you do that through miscegenation. You get the genes through conception.
Yes.
Of your father and your mother. And so Jean van Riebeeck, when he came here, he only had 85 men with him and 8 women. So these 8 women could not have given birth to the whole nation.
Yeah.
We had to help them create what they called a Boer nation later on. And those who thought were more clever called themselves Afrikaners. And also to try to upstage us, that they are the real African.
Yeah.
And when we were still very genuinely so and rightfully so calling ourselves Amazulu, Basotho, Botswana, they notched it. They said, no, we are Afrikaners. And it is in one of my coming books. I'm covering that.
Cool.
So they're trying to get away with that they're Afrikaners, but they will never get anywhere.
No.
You know, they just have to accept the fact that they are Africans in the world that are called the Abyssinia of Africa, which is South Africa. Before the Abyssinia that preceded the Ethiopia.
Yeah.
This is a melting pot. This is the crucible. This is where humans were born.
Were first created.
Yes. This is the place where had more Europeans, people of European descent. Lest I contradict myself. People of European descent
coming in this land.
In this land, I mean of European descent, and giving birth to their children who are still as white, perhaps close to what they are. You know, the proximity of the whiteness is to that of their fathers.
Yes.
Because after they were given birth by the Khoisan mothers and so on, they also tried to be in their own kraal, in their own lager, and then the black blood in them sort of washed off. You know, for instance, did you know that a man called Simon van der Stel, it is in history that his mother was a Khoisan.
No, I was not aware of that.
Yes, his mother was a Khoisan. He's among the few that are being pointed out. And there were many of them. Andries Truner, who was a troublesome politician, verkramped apartheid politician, and a lot of them. After Blue de Klerk, All
Yes.
of them, they have black blood in their veins, running in their veins. That's
But
why
it makes you question why they were so against that blood, pretty much.
they wanted to pretend they were Europeans. They thought if they present themselves as European, they will appear superior all the time, because Europe had told itself is superior to the mother continent. You understand what I mean?
So it was like a white supremacist mindset that they had that made them
Yes.
believe that they were much better than any other nation.
Yes, that's why this is what de Klerk also died defending in his most lousy apology. He calls us black, brown, and Indian, and he does not include the Afrikaner because he is more for preserving of the Afrikaner, and some of us are so-called black, brown, and Indian, and he does not bring the Afrikaner in the equation. But as you read his apology, you realize how subtly he's still lifting up the Afrikaner above the so-called black, brown, and
So he
Indian.
doesn't take into effect like the factor of equality like among the nations.
No, there's no way they could not take it into account. They never took it into account. They never thought of themselves as equals. They were taught even in church, their theology taught them that God had ordained them to come and be above us and guide us to civilization. So there was no way they were going to call themselves even naturalized. They just said, use the word naturalized. They just said, we are Europeans. There was a time when there were signboards when I was growing up that read Europeans only. And the others read...
I think I've seen that.
Yes, and the others read Bantus and so on. So you are really taking me into that area of politics. But I'm saying to you that South Africa is able... Oh yes, I wanted in conclusion to say, even the so-called Europeans or the British came to fight their cousins who were semi-European.
Semi-European.
Almost European.
Okay.
Who were calling themselves Boere. They fought them, fought over our land.
Yes.
They had the Anglo-Boer War of 1899 to 1902. They fought over our land. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
So it is phenomenal also that outsiders came to fight for our land.
The very land, the South Africa,
so that they can continue to suppress us.
So in conclusion, what is it that you want our listeners to get from these individuals? Like, what lesson can they learn from them?
The history is bigger than the individuals. South Africa is bigger than the individuals. South Africa mesmerizes me, and my task is to mesmerize the world with the fact of South Africa. How I call what I call the power from on high has prefigured it and preordained it to be the real place that reshapes the world. By the way, even the animal called politics will soon be expunged out of South Africa. It will be obliterated.
Yeah, because most people have lost trust.
Yes, politics is gone, and South Africa will be the first again to drive politics to the sea, not people, not humans, but politics to the sea. And the African governments will take root again. But it will take our academics not to be lazy. They will have to go back, research, research the African governance, way of governance in many aspects of it, and put together something far better than the Westminster system, all this.
But someone would question that South Africa as a whole, like it seems as if like the government is in trouble. So someone would ask, like, where would they have to find that information that could lead them to good African governance? Because of what we have seen is African leaders being corrupt, not just in South Africa, but other African countries. So where should people refer to, or what line should they actually follow?
The country, the country and the world will be saved not by politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Politicians will have been done away with.
Yeah.
It is the folk on the ground that will begin to rebuild,
Mm-hmm.
re-energize African governance thought, and as they do that, like I'm saying, the academics will have to research,
Yes.
go back, but they're lazy. They just want to be deans of faculties at university. They're very lazy. And where they are lazy, the intellectual, even the organic intellectual, must come into the equation.
So by organic, you mean people who are just doing the work?
The organic, I mean, those who are not necessarily recognized by
But
universities.
they have the experience.
They have the experience from on the ground and so on. That's why South Africa will have to end up with what we call a constituent assembly, where we will have to formulate the foundation of where we are going. And we already have a beautiful constitution that is better than other we are not going to break everything. We are going to garnish what we have. We are going to empower what we already have. And we will not say we have not learned out of politics. We will acknowledge the fact that we have learned out of politics
what not to do.
And now we are spewing out politics altogether, and we discovered it was too smelly to carry
To
on
keep
with
around.
it. Too smelly and messy to carry around our bag.
So obviously, like you said, the people are the one who will be given. Obviously, they all need to take that responsibility. They don't have to wait for any government to come and help them, but they need to start thinking
The
of.
government help mentality is a rotten mentality. You and I are talking now.
Yeah.
We will do it.
Yeah.
We will do it through this podcast
Yeah.
and many others. The government help mentality is a rotten mentality.
So we shouldn't
It's to
wait.
play into the hands of the very rotten people who don't know who they are. They don't know who they are.
So pretty much like what you're saying is that like we need to take the responsibility and not wait for the government, but we need to put together ideas and solutions together to help us to move our people forward.
Yes, we should not call any institution our government until it is of African governance.
And also going back to these people, so like what else can we learn from these individuals that we can now be able to apply in our local government?
These people that we talked about earlier, these people could not play second fiddle to anybody. They couldn't play second fiddle.
Yeah.
They were the fast. You understand what I mean? So they couldn't play the second fiddle. That's why they made it. That's why South Africa is still on the pedestal.
Yeah.
Because of these people. And very sad enough, our young people don't know about them.
These people,
So that's why my task is to say to the young people and to posterity, hey, look at what you have. Look at fire that is beneath you.
That has actually been, like that has taken place pretty much like in South Africa, and we can use this information to pretty much to give us the assurity that we can be the first as well. We don't have to be.
We have been the first already.
Yes. So this is like evidence to say.
Yes, that we are the first.
Yes.
So being the first would not come as a surprise. You You remember earlier, before we spoke, we talked about some of our, depression around what's happening in our vicinity and so on.
Yeah.
And and we assured each other in different ways that we will still rise out of these models of depression, of cultures coming together, knocking their heads against each other, causing commotion, and the politicians getting away with murder because they don't want those people to be educated. They want those people to remain cannon fodder for the votes and to create voting for them, and so that they can keep on filling their bags with money, satchel bags, then run away with them, and allow people to even run away with, like they allowed the Guptas to run away with our money. They have allowed them. History will come, and very soon, if Zondo Commission does not talk about it, history will denude that they actually allowed these people to run away with money.
So I think that is very interesting. Like, obviously, like the key takeaways, I think, like from this episode is to remember that South Africa, as a country, as a nation, has potential to become the first in the world, not just locally, but from a global perspective. And even the people on the ground need to understand that they themselves are makers of themselves. Like, they don't necessarily have to wait.
Yes, it is quintessentially capable. It is inherent in their gene to be to notch the first things in the world. I mean, really, when we come to South Africa also, and later on when we do the theological part, we will point out how South Africa is really the Garden of Eden. So I don't want to get into that right now.
Okay.
Yes.
No, it's. I think we will actually do that like in subsequent episodes. So what you can do for now is that you can subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and also you can like this episode and share it with your friends. And remember that we do look forward to hearing from you. So leave us a message on Anchor and tell us what you think about today's topic, and also what your viewpoint is when it comes to South Africa's exceptional knocks that have actually impacted the world, not just South Africa, but the whole globe. So I'm gonna close with that. So I don't know if there's any last words that you'd like to share with the audience before we close.
Well, I wish I had more words, but I'm an old man now. I'm
not so old.
I'm at the twilight of old age. I'm reaching old age, and perhaps if I was young, I would have more words. But let's pray that I keep on having more words to pump into this project.
100%. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you guys on the next episode.